Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, when it was released in 1967, in many ways stopped the pop music world. And one thing it told everybody, musicians, fans, is that the idea of pop music could be much broader, much more sophisticated, much more interesting.
So may I introduce to you, the active number all these years, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
It really changed the way that people conceptualize popular music. Instead of thinking about pop music as just a 3-minute single, the listeners were given this artifact where you listen through an entire album as a musical experience.
It was considered early in its reception history as a concept album, meaning that this band, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, not the Beatles, had put the music together. The term concept album had never been applied before.
So in many ways, Sgt. Pepper was an album that brought us the idea that rock could exist as some kind of art, as opposed to just some kind of craft.
Because Sgt. Pepper is such a special album in the Beatles' career, I wanted to have a conference here. The first 4 days of June 2017, the album was first released 50 years ago to the day on June 1st. Over the years, I've gotten to know many great speakers on the Beatles' work, so it was just a great time to bring experts, not only scholars, but people in journalism, Anthony DeCurtis, for instance, and Ken Scott, who was an engineer with the Beatles from 1967 into '68.
I started off at the famed Abbey Road Studios when I was 16, where I happened to start working with the biggest band in the world, the Beatles. They were amazing. Their learning ability, how quickly they learn what can be done in the studio, how to use a studio, how to create a whole different thing in the studio, was astounding. They were unbelievable and fearless. Eventually, they were making music for themselves, and it was, if other people like it, that's great.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came at a really interesting time for the Beatles. They had decided to stop touring at the end of 1966, and the media was exploding with rumors that the Beatles were done. Then we get into 1967, and the Beatles are spending all of their time in the studio, and they don't have the constrictions of the live performance anymore.
But it really made their dedication to studio technique something that was very much at the center of what that record was about. And it really produced a markedly different record.
The Beatles, in any domain you wish to look at, whether it's lyrics, harmony, melody, rhythm, counterpoint, texture, form, there are just so many ways in which they produced different sounds and more interesting sounds as they went along. I love teaching the Beatles.
Students should value and listen to and engage in the Beatles' music as much as the classical music, because their songs are going to live on as long as Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, all of those.
The study of popular music in academia today can both reach students where they're very comfortable. After all, they listen to popular music as a means of enjoyment, but also because it gives them an appreciation for music at large.
Popular music increasingly is having a central role at the very core of what we teach in music schools, and that really is a big transformation. If you take all of the classical music and jazz music that's purchased every year, a generous figure would say that counts for 3% of all music purchased. If we don't take popular music into account, it means the music that 97% of the rest of the world cares about, we don't think is worthy of study. I don't think that's right.